Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. I've always been kind of fascinated by airports, all those systems working behind the scenes, getting us where we need to go. It's easy to take it for granted until
Yeah.
until something goes wrong. Well, this morning at BWI Airport, something definitely went wrong. A
Right.
tower outage hit the main terminal, caused quite a stir. We've got a CBS Baltimore news report detailing the event, so let's dive in and see what happened.
Definitely sounds like a chaotic morning for travelers.
Absolutely, according to the report. It all started early on Monday, March 3rd, 2025. The outage affected not only the main terminal, but also the hourly garage. Can you imagine trying to navigate all that in the dark with flights to catch?
Not a fun way to start the week. And it's interesting that the outage hit the hourly garage as well. Really highlights how interconnected airport systems are, how a single point of failure can have cascading effects.
That's a great point. It wasn't just a few flickering lights either. BWI Airport actually tweeted updates throughout the morning, even shared a photo. That really shows the extent of the outage. It's kind of eerie seeing a usually bustling airport plunged into darkness.
I saw that photo. It really drives home the disruption. I'm curious, what kind of impact did this have on flights?
Well, according to the report, the FAA had to issue a ground stop for all arriving flights from 9:03 a.m. to 11:00 a.m. So even if those planes had power, they were stuck in a holding pattern until the situation at BWI improved.
Ah, so a ground stop. It's not something most people think about until they're directly affected by it. But essentially, it's a traffic control measure that the FAA uses to manage the flow of aircraft into an airport when there's a disruption, like this power outage. Helps prevent a backlog of planes circling overhead, waiting to land.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like hitting the pause button on incoming air traffic until things are back up and running.
Exactly. And while a ground stop is designed to minimize disruption, it does have a ripple effect throughout the air traffic network. Think about all those planes that were scheduled to depart for BWI during that time. They likely experienced delays as well, potentially impacting connecting flights, causing a domino effect across the system.
And let's not forget about the passengers on those inbound flights. They were already en route to BWI when the outage hit. The report mentions that around 9:30 a.m., planes started getting diverted to other airports. Can you imagine the frustration of being so close to your destination, only to be rerouted somewhere else?
It would definitely throw a wrench into your travel plans, to say the least. And it brings to mind a larger point. While this power outage is a localized event affecting BWI, it highlights the vulnerability of our increasingly interconnected systems. One disruption in a major hub like BWI can ripple outwards, impacting air travel across the country and even internationally.
It's a stark reminder that we live in a complex, interconnected world. And even seemingly isolated events can have far-reaching consequences. But beyond the immediate logistical headaches, I think this BWI outage also taps into a broader unease that many people are feeling about air travel these days.
That's an insightful observation. It's true that in recent months, there's been a string of high-profile aviation incidents that has shaken public confidence: the Vermont plane crash, the mid-air collision in D.C., the medical plane crash in Philadelphia. These tragedies, while statistically infrequent, leave a lasting impression and can contribute to a heightened sense of anxiety, even among seasoned travelers.
It's hard not to feel that way, right? It's like every time you turn on the news, there's another aviation incident being reported. So how do we reconcile this? On the one hand, we have the data telling us that flying is statistically one of the safest modes of transportation. But on the other hand, we have this gut feeling of anxiety, fueled by these recent events. It's a tough spot to be in as a traveler.
It absolutely is. And this is where I think understanding risk perception becomes crucial because as humans, our perception of risk isn't always perfectly aligned with statistical data. Vivid, emotionally charged events, like plane crashes, tend to stick in our minds more than the millions of safe flights that occur every day.
So even though the data might tell us one thing, our brains are wired to react more strongly
Yeah.
to those negative attention-grabbing events. It's like we know we're more likely to be injured in a car accident than a plane crash. But those images of a plane going down are hard to shake.
Precisely. And that's why open communication and transparency from the aviation industry are so crucial, especially after incidents like these. Providing clear, factual information about what happened, steps being taken to investigate, and measures to prevent similar incidents in the future can go a long way in building trust and alleviating anxieties.
So it's not just about the numbers. It's about acknowledging those very real human emotions and fears that come into play when we're talking about something as significant as air travel.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that people aren't just statistics, they're individuals with their own experiences and perceptions that influence their decisions. And when it comes to something as significant as air travel, those perceptions matter.
It's interesting how this BWI power outage, while a relatively minor event in the grand scheme of things, really brings to light those anxieties we were just talking about. It disrupts our sense of control, makes us question the reliability of the systems we depend on, and perhaps even amplifies those underlying fears about air travel safety.
That's a very astute observation. This seemingly isolated incident does tap into a much broader theme of systemic resilience, and that's particularly crucial when we're talking about critical infrastructure like airports. Think about it. Air travel has become so integral to our modern world, connecting people and economies across vast distances.
Yeah, it's something we often take for granted until it's disrupted. Like we expect to be able to hop on a plane and get to our destination without a hitch. But this adage reminds us that those systems, as advanced as they are still vulnerable to unexpected disruptions.
Exactly, and that's why events like this, while disruptive, can serve as valuable reminders of the importance of investing in robust infrastructure, backup systems, and contingency plans, because as our reliance on these systems grows, so too does the potential impact when they fail.
So it's not just about preventing disruptions altogether, which is probably impossible,
Yeah.
but about minimizing the cascading effects when those disruptions inevitably occur.
Precisely. How quickly can systems be restored? How effectively can information be communicated to travelers who are already en route or about to depart? How do airlines coordinate to minimize the impact on passengers? These are all critical factors in mitigating the fallout from events like this BWI power outage.
It's like having a safety net for our interconnected world. Because even if we can't prevent every disruption, we can certainly put measures in place to make those systems more resilient and adaptable when things go wrong.
That's a great analogy. And that idea of a safety net extends beyond just the physical infrastructure of airports. It also encompasses the communication systems, the protocols for handling disruptions, and even the way information is shared with the public.
So it's about having a multi-layered approach to resilience, ensuring that there are redundancies and backup plans in place at every level.
Absolutely. And that resilience is about more than just minimizing inconvenience. It's about maintaining safety and ensuring that even when disruptions occur, the system as a whole can continue to operate effectively.
Okay, so we've gone from the immediate chaos of a power outage to the ripple effects on flights, and now we're delving into this concept of systemic resilience. It's amazing how one event can unravel so many layers of interconnectedness, but I think that's the beauty of these deep dives. They encourage us to look beyond the surface
Yeah.
and connect the dots in ways we might not have considered before.
It's fascinating, isn't it? We started with what seemed like a localized incident, a power outage at an airport, and we've ended up exploring themes of risk perception, the psychology of fear, and the importance of building resilience into our critical systems. And I think that brings us to a crucial question. What can we as individuals learn from this?
That's a great question, because while we might not be able to single-handedly prevent power outages or design more resilient airports, we can certainly apply these concepts to our own lives.
Exactly. Thinking about resilience in a broader context can help us navigate the uncertainties and disruptions that are inevitable in any complex system, whether it's an airport, a city, or even our own personal lives.
So how do we cultivate that personal resilience? What steps can we take to be better prepared for the unexpected?
Well, one key aspect is awareness. Being mindful of the systems we rely on, understanding their potential vulnerabilities, and having backup plans in place can make a huge difference when disruptions occur.
So for example, if you're traveling, maybe it's having a backup charger for your phone, packing essential medications in your carry-on, or knowing alternative routes to your destination. In case of road closures or traffic jams, it's about anticipating potential challenges and having a plan B.
Exactly. And it's not just about physical preparedness, it's also about cultivating a mindset of adaptability and flexibility. Because when things don't go according to plan, being able to adjust, problem solve, and maintain a positive outlook can be just as important as having a well-stocked emergency kit.
It's like that old saying, the only constant is change. And in today's world, it feels like that change is happening faster and faster.
That's so true. And I think embracing that idea of change as a constant is a key part of building resilience. It's not about trying to control every aspect of our lives, but about learning to adapt and navigate those inevitable twists and turns with a bit more grace and composure.
So it's not just about having a plan, but about being willing to adjust that plan when circumstances demand it.
Absolutely. And sometimes those unexpected detours can lead to interesting discoveries or opportunities that we wouldn't have encountered otherwise. It's about reframing our perspective and seeing challenges as opportunities for growth and learning.
I love that. So this BWI power outage, while certainly a headache for travelers, actually offers some valuable lessons for all of us. It highlights the fragility of our interconnected systems, the importance of building resilience into our lives, and the need to manage our anxieties in the face of uncertainty.
It really does. And those lessons extend far beyond just air travel, whether we're dealing with a power outage, a natural disaster, a personal setback, or even just the daily stresses of modern life.
Yeah.
Cultivating resilience can help us navigate those challenges with more confidence and composure.
Yeah. So what are some practical tips for building resilience? What can our listeners do to start applying these concepts to their own lives?
Well, I think one of the most important things is to foster a growth mindset. This means embracing challenges as opportunities for learning and development, rather than viewing them as threats or failures.
So instead of getting bogged down by setbacks, we can ask ourselves, what can I learn from this experience? How can I use this to grow and become more resilient in the future?
Exactly. And another key aspect is building strong social connections. Having a supportive network of friends, family, or colleagues can make a huge difference in our ability to cope with stress and adversity.
It's like having a built-in support system to help us navigate those rough patches.
Yeah.
And I think that ties back to something we touched on earlier, the importance of communication. Whether it's airlines communicating with passengers during a disruption or individuals reaching out to their support networks for help. Clear and open communication is essential for building resilience.
Absolutely. And on a personal level, practicing self-care is crucial. Taking care of our physical and mental health, getting enough sleep, eating well, exercising, and engaging in activities that bring us joy can all contribute to our overall resilience.
It's like putting on your own oxygen mask first, right? You can't help others if you're not taking care of yourself. So fostering a growth mindset, building strong social connections, communicating effectively, and prioritizing self-care. These are all practical steps we can take to cultivate resilience in our own lives.
I couldn't have said it better myself. And remember, building resilience is an ongoing process. It's not about achieving some perfect state of unbreakability, but about continually learning, adapting, and growing from our experiences.
I think this has been a truly insightful deep dive. We started with a power outage at BWI Airport and ended up exploring some really profound ideas about resilience, risk perception, and how we can navigate the complexities of our ever-changing world.
It's amazing how a seemingly isolated event can unravel so many layers of interconnectedness and lead us to these broader conversations.
So to our listeners out there, we leave you with this. Have you ever experienced a disruption that tested your resilience? A travel delay, a natural disaster, a personal setback? What lessons did you learn? How did you cope? We'd love to hear your stories and insights.
Because ultimately, it's through sharing our experiences, learning from each other, and engaging in these conversations that we can collectively build a more resilient and adaptable world.
Well said. That's all the time we have for today. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.